Welcome to the table, everyone. I am so excited about this month's episode and this month's guest. It is going to be an amazing conversation. One, because I trust what she's going to tell us. She is an expert in her area, but she's also passionate about it. She's always learning about it, and she's trusting God to lead her as she develops and as she evolves into who she's called to be. And so that is always a good formula for a great guest. So welcome to the table.
Thank you.
So, guys, I want to introduce you to Jasmine Chanelle. I've already told her I stalk her on Instagram. She told me that she actually went to my parents' church when she was living here in Gainesville. And I was like, it's a small world. It's a really, really small world. But I'm going to give her an opportunity to introduce herself to you. And then we are going to jump right into our topic today. So, Jazz, will you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Sounds good. So hello, everyone. My name is Jasmine Chanelle. I am a personal brand coach for mompreneurs. And so what I specifically focus on is helping those moms who want to make that transition from corporate America, build a profitable side hustle, so then they can plan that exit so they have more time with their kids. And so I am a mom of 3. I have a 7-month-old, a 7-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So it gets crazy in my house, but I really have a passion for helping women learn how to explore those ambitions they have outside of motherhood and really put their time and energy in those things, in addition to nurturing their household. So I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, I'm excited that you said that it's outside of the household, but still nurturing their household. Because I think that a lot of us get lost in that. It's either one or the other. Either we're really, really, really invested in our house or we're really, really invested in our careers. But what I love is that your focus is the balance. Right. And not losing yourself and doing it well, not just kind of doing it, not just kind of seeing, does this work, but really doing the balance well and navigating well. So I really love that. And so you talked about your general, what you're doing right now, but I want you to kind of tell us what you did professionally and how you're meshing that with your purpose and the motivation, like how that all came about.
Yeah. So I actually started in corporate, working in social corporate responsibility and marketing and branding. So really helping the corporations that I was working for humanize their brand through storytelling online. And so when I graduated in 2012, that's when businesses were really starting to make that shift to leverage social media and digital media in general to grow their businesses. And so I had a really fun time in my corporate career. But there came a point, like you said, where it wasn't aligning with what I saw my purpose being. And so when I entered the corporate field, my goal was to help these brands connect the pieces for their potential clients and customers by showing what they were doing in the community and to make an impact. Okay. And so what I found was a lot of the brands or corporations I was working for, they were leveraging these stories, but they weren't actually living up to the values. And so for me, when your values don't align to what we say we're doing, that's a problem for me internally. And so from a purpose perspective, I began to try to figure out, okay, how can I use this skill? I have these marketing and branding skills, these storytelling skills. How can I use this to support organizations or to support things that actually align with the values that we say we align with? And so that's where my business was kind of born, out of that place of wanting to help those people who are truly doing the work, actually market themselves better to get more donations, to get more clients and customers.
I love it. And I also love that you were really, really bold about who you are. Right. So it was like, yeah, I'm absolutely good at this. I absolutely want the job and the check. I want to have fun. But what we're not going to do is lie to the people. We're not going to do that. And I love it because a lot of us, again, we're finding how to balance all of it. So we can have these great jobs, but it's okay to be like, this actually isn't what's aligning with me. Yes, it aligns with some of my wants. Like I want a job, I want a check, I want comfort, I want security, like I want all of those things, but there's a real reality that I need to be able to sleep at night. I need to know that what I'm doing is what I said I'm doing, and that I'm not just hitting a checkbox, right? Like I'm not just doing this to do this or to be the big corporate girl, or even if you're not a corporate person, you know what I mean? Like just in general, making sure that you're hitting all of the things. And so today's episode is Mompreneur Goals, right? And so that's what you are. That's how you market yourself. It's a part of your personal brand, and what you help other moms build. You focus on the mamas, not just women, but mamas, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. And so you've talked about what motivated you, I think a little bit to leave corporate, which was finding that balance and realizing that you could have it all, if you're intentional about it. But let's talk about how you've avoided burnout in this season or even in this transition, because even though corporate is a heavy task, being a mom and doing it from home and helping other moms, let's be very clear.
Yes.
Work.
In a pandemic at that.
I'm looking at my phone because it won't be me. So don't y'all get any ideas. It will not be me. It would not be me. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about how you've avoided burnout, especially in this pandemic season, but also how you are quantifying or defining success for you.
Yes. So the burnout piece has been a big difference for me, or a big thing that I was focused on, because I was burnt out when I left corporate America. And so I was very intentional about not building a business that became a job for me. Like I still wanted this to be fun and exciting and a passion. And the way that I avoided that was by setting boundaries in your business. So when you become an entrepreneur and because you're at home, people still feel like you're accessible. Like grandma is calling to ask you to pick so-and-so up from the grocery store, or, people are asking you for things. Clients are sliding in my DMs, sometimes asking questions at midnight. And where in the past I would answer those things, or, there's a level of, this is my livelihood, I have to continue to always be on and show up. And yes, you need to be consistent in your business, but I had to go back to the main reason I started this, which is aligning with my values, aligning with what I truly wanted and being intentional in that. And so the way that I avoid burnout is setting boundaries, both in my business and in the household. By communicating what I need. So saying to my husband, hey, I'm doing podcast interviews these 3 hours on Saturday or Sunday. I need you to hold down the fort. Or communicating to, family members, hey, I can't go pick your daughter up from soccer practice on Sundays because I have a business to run. And so really setting those boundaries and communicating what I needed, and then asking for help when I didn't have it together. And so for a lot of women, that's where the burnout comes in, is like we're out here drowning, but we're not telling anybody to send us a life preserver. We're just kind of drowning and hope we figure out how to swim faster or how to do more. And we're also trying to carry kids while we're drowning instead of asking for help. And so those are the 3 ways that I avoid burnout: is setting boundaries in my business and at home, communicating what I need, and then asking for help when I need additional help.
I love it. I want to say that a lot of us do the whole Superwoman thing because that's what's taught to us.
Exactly.
And a lot of what you'll see in social media and even in private is, oh, you've got it. That's what moms do. That's what wives do. We carry it all. We do it all. But there's a real reality that it takes a lot of courage and vulnerability to do what you're saying, to communicate and actually ask for help. And I think that that's actually a superpower, because most women aren't doing that. Most of us are suffering in silence. Most of us are thinking that we're balancing everything, but we're crying at night and we're burnt out.
Yes. Or we're adding all these things where we're escaping. So we're Netflixing, we're scrolling for hours at a time just to escape. Well, girl, we just need to get the tools to communicate and get the help.
And do it well. Do it well. Because a lot of times by the time we start communicating, we're communicating in toxic ways. Right. And we're upset and we're just unleashing and just all over everything. And that doesn't help us either. Exactly. And so I think that you're right. Like setting the tone early, thinking about those 3 precepts and putting them into practice often. And then perfecting them as you go, which is a big thing, because it may work for you one way and it may work for me differently. Like what that looks like how I'm communicating, when I'm communicating, and what I'm asking for as far as help goes. Because there are some things that you can do on your own, but there are things that you really do need the help with. And honestly, it's empowering for the people around you, because a lot of times we don't even realize that we've kind of made them feel like they don't matter and that they don't have any type of input or value in our everyday lives because we're handling it.
Yep.
And
When you're handling it, everybody thinks you got it. And so that's why they're not asking to help you. And you're just walking around like, don't y'all see me drowning? Help. But you're not saying that out loud. So yeah, that you empower the other people in your life when you do ask for help.
it's a thing. It's a thing. So tell us how you're quantifying or defining success for you.
Yeah, so when I began to build the Mom to Mogul brand, a lot of people I realized assumed that I meant all about making money and all about starting a business.
Okay.
And when I say becoming a mogul, that's not what I mean at all. What I mean is, as a mogul, you have freedom with your time, meaning you can spend your days doing the things that you enjoy,
Yeah.
whether that's wasting time, whether that's spending time with your kids, whether that's taking a nap, whatever that looks like for you. Freedom around your time. It also means freedom around your finances. So there's not a cap on the amount of money you can make because you've set up things outside of your job that can support your financial freedom and add these additional opportunities for you to create wealth. And then freedom with your energy. So many of us are burnt out, like you said. So many of us are, trying to hold it together and Superwoman, have the Superwoman cape on. And so when I say, success in being a mogul, it is freedom with your energy to be able to nurture yourself, to pour into yourself so then that you can serve your family and everybody else from overflow and not from depletion and not from this self-sacrifice place where we're giving people, we're giving ourselves fumes and we're pouring everybody else a cup of everything else. And so that is how I define success and being a mogul, is that freedom in all those three areas.
I love it. And it's so funny that you talked about the overflow, because one of the things I talk about often is that when our cup is filled, that's for us. The overflow is for everybody else. So we should never be in a place of deficit or depletion. We should always be filled up and operating at maximum capacity, right? But it's always the overflow that's for other people. But a lot of times what we find ourselves doing as moms, and especially those of us who are wanting to get into our own business or being entrepreneurs, we're taking from the cup.
Yep.
We're taking from the cup. And then again, we're out of balance, out of whack, and we don't know what's happening because we set our schedules. We think that we have it together. We're no longer having to work these regular 9 to 5s. Everything is good. And yet, like, we still haven't got it. And so I think that it's really, really good when you talked about the overflow, for people to realize the overflow is for everybody else. You need to maximize what's in your cup because that's for you. And you should never have to take from your cup. Your cup should always be filled for you. So I want to talk about how you would what tips or advice you would give to those of us who are having difficulty thinking about leaving the comfort, or what we see as the comfort of our 9 to 5 jobs, to pursue this entrepreneurship, and how you knew that it was a God move and not a Jasmine jump. Like, what does that look like?
So I will start with the God move part and then I'll go into the practical steps.
Yes.
I knew it was a God move and not a Jasmine move because I was actively applying for jobs for 3 to 4 months and getting denied for every single one. So when my corporate environment started to get toxic and I'm like, oh, I need to probably move on, I didn't say, oh, let me just go start a business. Let me just go full-time in my business. That was not my first thought because I had run from entrepreneurship up until that point. I had always been a creative, but I was running from it because I'm like, that's an unstable life. I don't want anything to do with that. Right. So I began to apply for jobs. And for 6 months, I didn't get one single call for an interview. This is with 10 years of experience. This is with accolades and awards in my industry. This is with a master's degree and multiple certifications. No interviews. And I was applying for like entry-level marketing jobs, something to just transition from the corporation that I was in. And that's how I knew it was a God move, because he wasn't going to open this safe version of what I thought my next level would be, as in another job. And so he said, I gave you what you needed. I told you to go all in on that business 3 years ago. And so that's the main way I knew it wasn't a Jasmine move, because I would have stayed in that safety. I would have continued to stay there, even though I was undervalued, I was underpaid, even though there was microaggressions, there were all these things happening in that corporate space. I would have continued to stay for the sake of safety and for the sake of predictability and being comfortable. And so I knew it was a God move, because he's like, nope, I'm not giving you another job to jump into. I need you to jump into the thing I told you to do.
Like, literally.
Yes. And then, so the practical tips then of getting started. First, you have to work on your mindset. You have to get really clear about the beliefs that have been holding you back, because the life that you're currently living reflects what you have believed up until that time. And so if you have only made 40K or 50K and you want to make six figures in your business, there are mindset things that you have to work on. There are faith things that you have to work on to expand your faith to step over into this new level that you're seeking. And so that is the first thing. Get quiet, get silent, and begin to hear what God has for you next. Begin to write down those, ideas that he's given you, or those people he's telling you to connect with. Begin there, so that you can have some clarity moving forward. Because when you move forward without clarity and in confusion, you waste a lot of time and energy doing the wrong things.
And money.
And money. We will build something that God didn't even tell us to build and be upset that we're not getting customers in that area. And he's like, girl, I told you to go coach people, not to build websites, which is what I started out doing. And so it is important to get clarity. And that starts with getting deeper in your word, spending time with him to know what he wants you to do. The second thing that I would say is important to work on before you quit is growing your brand visibility. You need to grow this brand and this movement around your story so that people are ready to purchase. When you buy, when you offer your, when you launch your offer, and so many people think as soon as they post, hey girl, I got a business, or hey, I got a service, that people are going to be running to give you their money. That's not the case. You have to cultivate and nurture a relationship with your audience long before that. So I tell all of my clients, before you even think about quitting, start growing this brand once you get that clarity on where God is moving you. And then the third thing is you have to strategically think about your exit. So many people just say they want to quit. They don't have any 12-step plan, 6-month plan. They haven't wrote anything out other than I hate this job and I need to leave today. And so a very practical thing that I have my mamas do is like, hey, what's the date that you want to quit? Even if it's 5 years away, write that date down, post it on your computer at work. Like I had my quit date on a Post-it note long before I quit, about 6 months before I quit. I had it on my computer, so I was seeing it every day. And so in the times when they were getting on my nerves at work, I'm like, October 1st, 2018, they can have these problems with somebody else. October 1st, 2018, I'm not even going to be here. This is not even going to matter. What I need to focus on today to get to October 1st, 2018. And I ended up quitting a whole month before that because I was strategically working on my plan. And I always had that daily reminder. So those three things would be the main thing: getting clarity, getting clear on what God wants you to do, what the vision is, growing your brand visibility while you're still working, and then beginning to plan that exit. What does it realistically look like for you to actually quit?
Yeah, that's a lot. And I think that I've had this conversation with the ladies on the podcast before. Like, I'm working a 9 to 5. I actually enjoy my 9 to 5. I don't have an issue with it. I do believe that God is calling me into full-time ministry at some point, but I don't believe that he's released me from that. So it's really good to hear someone who is actually like an expert in that area saying, hey, don't just jump just because you feel it.
Right.
You need to map it out. You need to know what you're doing. Because you will look real silly if you get out there without any type of plan. Because the reality is we're talking about, oh, I'm going to post something and everybody's going to jump and flock to it and, sign up for my service or buy my products. We don't do that for other people.
Right.
Y'all, I have never done that. Like, I'll see somebody like, well, where'd that come from?
Right. Exactly. And that's how we all feel. We are all secretly judging the person who's like, well, girl, last week you were building baskets. Now you're selling financial coaching services. What? We have to think through these things.
You have to be strategic. And I think that that's really, really key, going back to how you figured out this balancing and this prioritizing, because what I love is that your transparency is you enjoyed this corporate job, at least for a portion of it. Now, near the end, it was, but you enjoyed it. You enjoyed what you did, but you knew that you needed a balance and something different for your home life. And so prioritizing your needs, utilizing your gifts, and balancing out your family goals, all of that comes with balancing, but that's because you're strategic about it. Yeah. A lot of us think that it means getting more rest and putting our kids down earlier for bed. That's not just it.
Exactly.
I'm just being honest. I mean, because I know that I'm that person, but my kids are night owls. And I realized one day, I'm like, this is actually not balanced. Like arguing with them to go to bed so I can be up all night is not
Mm-hmm.
balanced. I have to actually get more strategic about this
Right.
and what I'm doing and how I'm doing it. Because even though I don't necessarily offer products and things like that, I do offer a brand, I do offer a
Mm-hmm.
service. And so when you say that you're a faith girl and you're created in his image, the reality is that we're created for his glory, right? So all
Right.
of our things should be strategic and should have a sense of excellence to
Mm-hmm.
it and thought. And I think that sometimes we forget that. We're like, we're his kids, so he's going to take care of it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
he's like, actually, you're my kid, so you need to get it together.
Right. Act like it. Act
Like,
like you know who you belong, who you are. Yeah.
and that's the thing, because we think about ownership, we think about entrepreneurship, we think about being able to set our own schedules and the freedom and all of these things. And God is like, absolutely, you can have these things. I am the God of provision, but I'm also strategic. So therefore, I'm calling you to be strategic.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're a mom and you're an entrepreneur and you're a wife or you're all of these other things, a friend, sister, whatever, you have to be strategic in aligning those goals with the purpose that He's given you. And so I love that everything that you're kind of teaching the women in your programs, or in your consultations, or whatever that you're doing with them, that you're always calling them to pull out the excellence, not
Mm-hmm.
just the basic.
Exactly.
Because we like to do basic and dress it up.
Right. Which is what most of us are doing in our jobs. A lot of people are operating in their zone of like, oh, I'm good at these things. I could do these things. I went to school for these things, instead of their zone of genius, like the thing that you do better than anybody else. And so the reason that entrepreneurship is stretching for a lot of people, the reason it is like a lot of mindset work is because for the first time, you are having to go above and beyond, and nobody's telling you what to do. And so you are going above and beyond every single day with just the vision God gave you. And we all know He only gives you a piece of it most of the time. He don't give you every single step. He give you step A and D, and you got to figure out A, B, and C in the middle. And so for a lot of people, that is just stretching, and that is where they give up because they
That's
haven't
exactly where they give
thought
up.
strategically about what does this look like for me to actually execute.
First of all, I need people to understand that faith is not just a word, it's an action. And so you have to activate that. And so when you're talking about this A to D, the middle part is the faith. That's the faith. That's where you're going to put things into activation to effectuate those things. Because you're right. At 9 to 5, I am very comfortable. I am very good at what I do. Petra Michelle can coast the majority of the day. Okay, I know it. But then when I come into this space where I believe that He's called me, I find that I really have to dig deep and pull back out, because they were already there, but pull back out those creative things, pull back out my devotionals with Him, pull back out those things that He's kind of calling me to call forth out of other people, because I've put them to the side, because that requires work and it
Exactly.
requires introspection. And to be clear, a lot of us do not like to see that we're not really good at some of this stuff. Because when we hear purpose, we think that we're going to be amazing right off the bat.
Right. And that's instantly you're going to know exactly what to do.
No, that is not how it works. And I think it's really good because, again, God is like, I'm going to be. I chose you anyways, but that means I've also given you the tools to bring it out. But you're going to have to do the work to bring it out. But a lot of us miss that moment. And we go back to the 9 to 5. They weren't writing them checks fast enough, God. They weren't giving me enough likes, God.
Mhm.
I didn't find people picking up my services that I just kind of threw together, but didn't matter. They didn't pick them up. Like, you know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Exactly.
it's a thing. And I really want the girls to hear, as you're talking, like being a mompreneur, being a mogul, it's a mindset.
Hmm.
And the word says that we have to bring our mind, our thoughts under subjection.
Yep.
Like we have to control that. We have to change their trajectory. We have to put them into this space and realize, okay, I've been doing things like this, but if I want to be over here, I have to shift. Right? And you literally like, I'm gonna put this post-it note here. I'm be smiling in y'all's face and doing y'all's job. But Jasmine Chanelle finna be out.
That's exactly what I was doing every day. I would drive to the garage. I'm like, one day it's going to be my last time parking in this parking garage, putting my badge up to this door, one day it's going to be my last day doing this.
Y'all ain't finna see me.
Exactly.
It's gonna be done. But it required you to shift your mindset, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really did, because you were good at what you did, but you realized this ain't gonna be it.
Right.
And so what do I need to do to get to where I want to be? So building the brand, building the business, building the skill set, building just even the way that you communicated with yourself, not even just with others, but yourself, I think is really, really key. So how did this self-assessment of your global needs and gifts help you to clarify your lane and who God had called you to work with?
Yeah, so up until that time, I was kind of very general. I was like, oh, I help small businesses. Then I'm like, oh, I help female entrepreneurs. Then I'm like, oh, I help, people in the service industry. And then I kept getting down, down, and down until God was like, moms. And I was like, God, I cannot get on the internet and say I only want to work with moms. Like, this is going to kill my business. I can't do it. And so that was in 2015. I thought I was too new of a mom to coach other moms in business, because my son was only 2 years old at the time.
Okay.
And in 2015, I wrote down the idea for the program that is now my flagship program. And I'm like, that can't be what he's asking me to do, because that's too small of an audience. And I haven't been a mom long enough. And so I never pursued the idea. And I struggled for the next 3 to 4 years in business to gain clarity, to get results. So I would get some results, but it was like this seesaw of like months are up, months are down. I'm like, what's going on? And so in 2019, after battling postpartum anxiety really heavy, I'm like, I am either going to have to go back to work, or I'm going to have to go back and figure out what's going on. And I was like, I'm not going back to work. So let me go back to my journal. Let me go back to my devotionals. Right. I'm like, let me go back to doing my devotionals. Let me go back to reading scripture. And he made it crystal clear. I told you to work with moms in 2015. And so in 2020, I said, I'm going to go all in on my brand, working specifically with moms. I didn't accept any speaking engagements, no podcast interviews. I didn't do anything. I'm like, I am going to focus on selling one offer to one group of people. And I had my first 6-figure year last year in the middle of a pandemic, after listening and being obedient.
Y'all, what do I tell y'all? Obedience is better than sacrifice.
Yes.
And even when we are trying to perfect things, because we just don't think God could be asking us to do that, because it's either too specialized or it's too small, or we don't think that we're equipped to do it, it is still disobedient to not do what he's told us to do. And he's not going to bless us the way that he would if we were being obedient. So just because you were a new mom and you had no idea, like, this ain't a thing. This is not a thing. We're not going to get on here talking about we're just going to talk to moms. And God was like, you absolutely are. You absolutely are going to do this. And you're like, no, I'm going to perfect this because this makes more sense. So I'm sure that that's what you mean, God.
Yeah.
And us helping God is us being disobedient. He didn't ask us to do that.
Exactly.
Y'all be laughing at me, but I'm serious. He doesn't ask us to do that. He said, I want you to trust me. I want you to activate your faith. And the minute that you did that, in the middle of a whole freaking pandemic, and let's be clear, you've done this for a while. 2015 is a while. This is not, you're not new to this. But once you begin to clarify who God was actually calling you to be in partnership with and to lead, then we talking 6 figures.
Yep.
Then we talking what most people want to talk about, the check.
Yep.
Right? But
while pregnant and taking 3 months off.
That's what I was waiting for you to say. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Because she totally just disappeared, just so we're all clear. Like, she went on real maternity leave, not kind of. I'm going to pop back in and say hey to y'all. She actually didn't. She actually did not. So I just want to throw that out there. She did not do that. She's not. I told her I stalked her Instagram. She actually was like, hey, guess what? I'm not going to see y'all. Y'all be great. Y'all be great. But again, God gives provision. Yeah. So the minute that you began to walk in what he'd already told you to walk in, it wasn't a problem for you to take 3 months off from holding everybody's hand and leading them, because he was like, we're good, actually. Right. This is I'm gonna, like your boy behind you says, you're gonna live your best life.
Right.
You're gonna be resting. My grace is sufficient. They're gonna figure it out, and when you come back, you're still gonna have clients.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. So I have a question. So what advice would you give to those who want to give up or who do choose to give up entrepreneurship? Is it really for everyone? How do they know? Because you talked about how you made the decision, I ain't going back to work. Like I really am done with these corporate people. We're done with that. But what about those of us who are struggling with, do we go back? And those of us who do, like we're like, you know what, this isn't for us. How do we know? Or do you know? Do you know if there's like an answer to that?
Yeah, I think you know by the fruit. Like we judge everything else, you know by the fruit. And sometimes the fruit is not necessarily customers or clients or money. Sometimes the fruit is your faith has grown bigger in this time as you pursue this thing. Sometimes you've grown in connections with people. Sometimes you are experiencing more joy and more peace. And even if business isn't working, maybe you have more peace. So if you know, desire to go back, go back. I have clients who have gone back and they cried on the way back. And the first day there, they got confirmation on what they were supposed to be doing in their business. And so now they have a better plan to leave with full clarity. And they're like, okay, Jasmine, I went back, but this is what I'm doing for the next 6 months. And I know I'm not going to be here this time next year. And so sometimes it is okay to go back. Like if I ever have to go back, I'm probably not going back to a cubicle. I'll probably go fold clothes at Old Navy and figure it out from there if I need the financial security.
Real talk.
But it is okay to go back, and it is okay to step away and reassess, is this for you? I truly deep down inside think multiple streams of revenue or income is for everybody. That doesn't necessarily mean you need to be full-time in your business to do that.
Okay.
You can build a six-figure business without being full-time in your business when you are strategically focusing on money generating activities with the time that you do have. And so maybe that doesn't look like you building a business from the ground up. Maybe that looks like multi-level marketing for you. Because, you know, entrepreneurship is not for you, but you want to make extra income. Maybe that looks like, you know, you buying something like a cleaning business that's already running, or partner with a friend on a franchise. Maybe that's your extra source of income, or real estate or something else. But I do believe only counting on your job is dangerous for most people, because we just don't know. And I think what 2020 taught a lot of people is that all of these companies that said they cared didn't care as much as they said. They didn't care that your kids are right next to you doing virtual school, and they still want you on 5011 meetings. That there wasn't a level of grace extended to people that I think most of us would have expected in a time of crisis, especially for moms, when we were bearing the burden of a lot of this, of adjustments that had to be made. And so I think we need to pay attention to that, because those are also messages.
They're systems, y'all. They're absolute systems. And so they're not going to give the grace that we would want. It's a system. And I think that once you realize that, then you're good. I think that the idea of multiple streams of income, not necessarily full-time entrepreneurship, is real, because it's not going to be for everyone. And so that's not the goal of today's conversation. The goal is to find your lane and to excel in your lane. That's the true goal. And so as we kind of wrap up our conversation and what that looks like, I want you to give us 3 tips. If you got 3, it really depends, because I have a feeling you could probably nail it in 1, but we're going to see. What are 3 tips you would share to balance motherhood, purpose, and personal goals?
Ooh. The first one, put it on paper. Like you see behind me, I have a vision board right here. I have a list of intentions over here. I have my 5-year goals over here on this wall. Write it down. There's something about putting pen to paper to really make something real for you, because a lot of us have these goals and ambitions that are floating in our head that we've never said to anybody, that we've never written down. So we're not actively working towards it. So that's the first thing. Write it down. The second thing is taking daily action. Even if you're only spending 5 minutes on a goal that you have 5 years from now, what is one thing you could do today to get closer to that goal? Taking action every single day towards that thing that you are working on will make it accelerate and show up quicker by you taking action. And so your action could be in your prayers, start including that house you want to buy. In your prayers, start including, hey, God, when I retire, I want to have this in my savings. I want to have these properties. Start including those things that are far off, taking some daily action toward it, and then more balance in motherhood. And then the third one would be self-awareness. Honestly, therapy changed my life this year or last year. The mindset work changed my life. We have to really know who we are and have a sense of identity around what we truly value. Because I make all of my clients take an assessment. What are the things you value? And then turn around and look at your life. How many of those things are you doing on a daily basis? And most women value freedom, the ones that I work with, but there's nothing in their life that reflects this
Right.
freedom. They value deep connections with friends, but they don't have rich friendships because they're working all the time. Or, they don't know how to communicate. Or, they value family and marriage, but girl, you're working 60 to 70 hours a week. How much time are you spending on your marriage and your family? And so really having self-awareness and not judging yourself for not having the things that maybe you desire, but then go get them. But I think the key is getting the awareness that, oh, wait, I get to choose what my life looks like.
That's crazy to think about.
Yeah.
That most of us haven't really thought about it. Like we get to choose. But that's not necessarily what we were taught, right?
Right.
Most of our parents, they retire out from the one job, 30, 40 years, and that's what we know. But you get to choose the life that you want. So what are you doing to go get it?
Right.
I love it. 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 And to really tap in, if you have questions or if you need some guidance, she is a great resource for you. Now you need to pay for the resource, okay? But but it is well worth it. We talk about this all the time. You sow where you want to go. Okay. So if there's something that you want to elevate in, then you're going to sow into that good ground. And that's going to be a thing. So Jasmine, I want you to share how they can connect with you and get to know you and get signed up for your services.
Yeah, so I spend most of my time over on Instagram. You can see a daily look in my life of balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship in my Instagram stories. And so I'm at _ Jasmine Chanelle over on Instagram, or you can check out jasminechanelle.com to just stay connected with my services. And then I also have the Mom to Mogul podcast, where I help moms boss up at home and in their businesses. So you can find more tips and information there as well.
Perfect. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you coming on and sharing your heart with the ladies and giving us some really good tips that we can start to put into practice even right now.
Right.
Even right now, because I'm gonna choose. I like that. I'm going to choose the life that I want to live. And so I'm going to be active about that. So I hope that all of you listening will do that too. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the Table Podcast. I'm excited for next month. You're really going to love the guests just as much as you love today's, I'm sure. And if you have any questions or if you want some additional info about Jasmine, feel free to reach out to me and I'll make sure to get that to you. You all have a wonderful week. Bye.